Oh look, new Zenbook in the house. Wonder if it's any different. Looks like any other Zenbook.
Look closer.
Wow.
That's right, folks. This laptop has a secret secondary display tucked underneath the keyboard. I mean, how cool is that? So folks, meet the new Asus Zenbook DUO for 2024. Asus has completely redesigned this laptop from top to bottom compared to the previous generation, and I think they've nailed the dual display approach for this year, because if you recall, the previous Zenbook Duos always had a secondary display that was sort of split in half and it sort of raised at an angle, which didn't really have the greatest advantage in terms of productivity. It was pretty cool at the time. I think initially it started with the concept design, but now the evolution is certainly going into the right direction, and we're excited to partner with Asus to showcase some of the cool features this new laptop brings to the table. So as you can see, the main highlight for the Zenbook Duo is the inclusion of two 14-inch 3K 120Hz OLED displays. But I guess the coolest part about all of this is the fact that how you get this detachable keyboard that simply magnetically attaches to the bottom screen via the pogo pins. Now what's really cool is that I love the seamless integration of this setup, because you can easily close the laptop and just carry it as a traditional laptop. I mean, this is very much a laptop first, Swiss Army knife later kind of type of device, which is pretty cool. Now these pogo pins continuously supply power to the keyboard, so this thing never runs out of battery as long as it's attached to the laptop, and as long as the laptop has power, you're gonna be running this no problem. And what I also love about it is the fact that they've built in recessed slots on the bottom, so that even though that they're magnetic, it actually prevents the laptop or this keyboard from sliding around, which is a really thoughtful design implementation. I guess the one compromise that you'll need to take into consideration is the increased Z height. Now usually with thin and lights, you expect them to be around 0.5 to 0.6 inches, but this one with the keyboard installed is gonna come to around 0.78 inches, which isn't too bad on paper, because again, from my perspective, this thing is still pretty compact considering all the tech that's crammed inside this form factor. Now I want to talk a little bit about this keyboard, because usually when it comes to designing something brand new from top to bottom, you have to take some sacrifice in terms of the core characteristics of what it usually was with previous Zenbook laptops. Because if you recall, Zenbook notebooks in general have some of the best keyboards on the market. And what I appreciate about this particular setup is that they haven't taken away from that essence of keyboard characteristics. So for instance, the switches still feature 1.3 millimeters of key travel, so it still sounds great with great feedback. It's super rugged. I just love the way how it types and feels. It's also backlit in white, which is awesome. You also get a full-size trackpad with a PVD coating that enhances a smoother navigation experience when you're browsing through Windows. Plus, it sort of replicates what you get with a precision glass trackpad, which I think is really cool. Again, from the outside, I think Asus has nailed the Zenbook Duo as a laptop first type of device, which is awesome. Plus it features those cool tricks up its sleeve that I talked about earlier.
I mean, this new fan is something else, with regular and reverse models available to create that clean look without compromising the airflow direction. Like these bottom fans are set to intake, but look like the rest of the fans on the enclosure. It's brilliant. They cleverly daisy chain with snap-on bridges, and all these bits cover up the uglies, so you never have to worry about the looks or the cable management, as it's just one cable. This is what the premium Dirge 30mm performance fan should look like, the new Fantix D30.
So as I mentioned in the beginning of this video, this laptop features two 14-inch 3K OLED displays. Now, Asus did collaborate with Samsung to provide these high-resolution, high-refresh rate panels, and they are Pantone certified from the factory, which means they do feature 100% DCI-P2 coverage. Now, as you all know, OLEDs have a specific and unique characteristics of providing vibrant colors with those inky blacks. These particular panels actually feature up to 550 nits of peak HDR brightness levels. SDR levels are probably going to top out around 400 nits, but that's usually what we expect with OLED panels. And the whole experience is awesome. It's sharp. When you're trying to get things done, when you're either watching videos or even trying to edit videos or photos, these panels, the color accuracy is incredible. Not to mention the 120 Hz refresh rate on both these panels just ties in the whole visual experience, because just a simple task like moving windows or tabs from one display to the other is super smooth and responsive. I absolutely love it. I should also add that both these panels feature touch support, so you can use your fingers to navigate through windows, or you can use Asus's stylus to navigate and get things done on this laptop. Plus, these panels are covered in Gorilla Glass for enhanced durability. Now, I know you guys are probably concerned about burn-in for these OLED panels, but Asus has taken proper precautionary steps to prevent that from happening. So the first thing is that they have programmed a screensaver to pop up every 30 minutes if the laptop is in idle state. Secondly, it does come with Windows shift in dark mode. And third, it does come with pixel shift technology. So what that means is if you have a static image displayed on both these displays, the algorithm basically shifts those images, and this all happens behind the scenes, so it doesn't really get noticeable to the naked eye. I mean, these are some of the best OLED panels that you can find in the market right now, so I don't think burn-in should be that much of a concern. But I do appreciate the preventative measures that Asus has baked into the Zenbook DUO. Now let's switch gears and talk about the different modes that this laptop can transform itself into, and I think it's pretty cool. So the first obvious setup is this dual screen laptop mode. Now, this is essentially a mode that you can populate as many windows on both screens to maximize productivity. It also helps you stay focused instead of constantly switching between tabs or windows. You can also summon the virtual keyboard by tapping your fingers on the screen. And by default, it lays out the keyboard at the bottom, so you have half the screen to fill with content. If you tap right over here, it brings in a tiny trackpad to help with navigation. But if you need the full-size layout, simply drag the keyboard up top and boom, it's a virtual version of the physical keyboard that comes with the laptop. Pretty cool in my opinion. You also have the option to enable dedicated media control keys along with other functions like emojis and GIFs, which is such a brilliant execution. Asus has also built in some cool Windows management features. So if you want to move an app from the primary display to the secondary display, simply tap and drag the window with your fingers. You'll see a pop-up menu suggesting the second screen while also showing the various multitasking layouts. There's also the option to spread the app across both screens, which just gives you a massive canvas to go to town with. This next mode is called sharing mode. So this essentially leverages the 180-degree hinge design that's integrated into the Zenbook DUO. As you can see, the display lays all the way flat, and it essentially mirrors the main display. Now, this can be activated through the control center, which is this little icon that's hovering right over the desktop, which by the way gives you quick access to the brightness adjustments for both these panels. You can also enable or display the second display. It can also disable the auto rotate function, and you have multiple other settings that you can get to. But once you enable this mode, it allows you to share your presentations or any sort of content with your peers in a conference room setting. So it just creates room for better engagement rather than them having to just come around and look at your main display. It's a pretty thoughtful feature. Now, this next mode is something that I'm really excited to share with you guys, and it's probably my favorite. It's the desktop mode built into the Zenbook DUO. So this laptop has an integrated kickstand, which essentially props up at an angle just like that. I think it goes up to 90 degrees, I believe. So it essentially props the laptop at an angle just like that, which just allows you to view both displays in a more comfortable manner instead of having to look down on the screen, which just causes strain in your neck especially if you're viewing it for longer periods of time. This is just the perfect orientation in my opinion, but you could just take the included keyboard, place it right over there, and you're just greeted with this amazing dual screen desktop layout, which is super cool. I can just go to town with my productivity, do my research. Right now I'm just researching on E39s, but that's just my you know me, I love cars. But it doesn't stop there, because you can also use this laptop in portrait orientation. So basically just flex the hinge all the way towards its maximum limit, rotate it just like that, and now you're just greeted with a portrait setup, which is just perfect for programmers or even like writers who are writing up articles. I mean, it's a really awesome use of screen real estate. There are so many use cases that can leverage this setup, like taking Zoom meetings on one screen while typing up notes on the other display. If you're into content creation, you can have your timeline on the primary display while having the bins, effects windows, and audio levels on the secondary display. Adobe Lightroom allows you to take advantage of dual screens as well by showing your main controls and the image that you're working on the first display while having the library on the second screen. It's just super handy when you're editing thousands of photos. Now, from a design standpoint, Asus has still maintained the same characteristics of what a Zenbook should look like. So if you look at the top cover over here, it's super minimal and clean. You do get this iconic monogram logo that's stretched across the A cover, which is pretty neat. It comes in this matte black finish, which is super clean. I love the aesthetics so far. And the whole chassis is made out of CNC aluminum, and it only weighs a little over 3.8 pounds with the keyboard installed, and without the keyboard it's a little under 3 pounds, so it's not super heavy. I prefer this setup. I mean, considering all the tech back inside, it's pretty awesome. The included 65-watt charger is super compact. Again, this whole setup can easily fit inside a backpack, no problem. I love the fact that you can just take this with you anywhere you go. Bring that whole desktop experience to a coffee shop is simply awesome, and it charges the laptop over USB Type-C. Plus, it supports fast charge. So if you plug this thing for 30 minutes, it'll juice up the battery up to 50%, which is really nice. Now, while we're on the topic of battery, ASUS was pretty generous with the battery size on this Duo. So this thing, considering all the tech pack inside, features a 75 watt-hour battery, which means you can expect up to 10 hours of battery life. Now again, we have to validate that in our full review, so definitely stay tuned for that. The port selection is also pretty generous on the Zenbook Duo, so you get a full-size USB Type-A port, along with 2 Thunderbolt 4 Type-C ports, a full-size HDMI 2.1 port, and an audio jack. You can also see that there is a USB Type-C port for the keyboard, but this is only used to charge the keyboard when it's used as an accessory instead of having it attached to the laptop via the pogo pins, because remember, it does charge the keyboard via that connector. But yeah, it's just a backup option just in case if the keyboard runs out of battery. I guess the last thing I want to go over is the specs powering the Zenbook Duo. So ASUS is going to offer the laptop in 2 flavors. So you can pick this up with a Core Ultra 7 155H or a Core Ultra 9 185H CPU with up to 32 gigabytes of onboard memory running at 7,467 megahertz, which is just bananas. You can also configure this with up to 1 terabyte SSD. And it comes with Intel Arc graphics. Unfortunately, there's no room for a discrete GPU, but that's obviously something that we expected considering the thin form factor along with all the tech that's powering this laptop. You can also pick this up with 2 14-inch 1200p displays, which is going to cost you slightly less. And speaking of price, this thing is going to start at $1499, which I think is pretty awesome considering all the features you're getting. And of course, the higher end trim with the OLED panels are going to cost a little bit higher. So there you have it, guys, the ASUS Zenbook Duo for 2024. I think this is going to be an excellent option for those seeking to just level up their productivity. And it's also a great product, something that's catered towards the niche market as well. If you just want to experience proper dual screen setup for a laptop. Again, the feature set is awesome. I especially love this full-size keyboard because this implementation, let alone, is just amazing. And I'm glad that ASUS has been able to address a lot of the sort of ergonomic issues that we had with the previous Zenbook Duo laptops and just take this thing to a whole new level. But anyways, let me know what you guys think about this laptop from ASUS. You know, are you excited about some of the features? And if there's anything that you'd like to know, I'm pretty sure I'm probably going to take a full review at this later in the year. But yeah, if there's anything that you'd like to know, leave a comment down below. I'm Iber with Hardware Canucks. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll talk to you guys in the next one.